Hi guys, it's Mr. Prouse here again. Today we're starting a new chapter. So we just finished the annuities chapter and now we're on to the non-linear functions chapter. Sorry about my messy writing up the top here. So non-linear functions. That pretty much means some of the graphs, etc. that we're going to be dealing with here are non-linear. So that pretty much means they're no longer straight lines. So we're going to be dealing with different sorts of curves. Okay, so exercise 8A is dealing with exponential functions. That's just one type of function. Now, firstly, you may be confused about what the word function means. It's pretty much just an equation with y as the subject. These equations are typically graphed on a number plane to make a line. So the idea is, people, that you're dealing with where y is the subject. So that pretty much means y is equal to something is the typical equation you're going to get. And we typically want to deal with the graphs of these sorts of equations. Okay, so the first sort of function that you're going to learn about is an exponential function. And these have an equation that looks like this or this. Now, the idea is we see that y equals something, y is the subject. You also see that x is a power. I'm going to change my highlighter. You can see that x is a power. So it could be a positive x or it could be a negative x. But the idea with exponentials is that x has to be some sort of power. Okay, so let's do a few examples here. And also, sorry, this a here, that's pretty much some random number. But it has to be positive. I probably should have put that one in there. So that a is always going to be a positive number. So for example, like here is our 3 and here's our 5. So moving on, here's a few examples of exponential functions. So here we've got y equals 3 to the power of x. So as you can see, we've got our y equals, which is needed, and we've got our normal sort of number here, and then we've got our x as a power. So that's the must here. This x being a power is really crucial. Over here, we've got our y equals, we've got our normal 5, and we've still got x as a power, but it's just the negative version of x. So we consider that to be a negative exponential. Over here, it was a positive exponential. Okay, so I want to show you what these sorts of functions look like when they're graphed. You need to be able to recognize the graphs of these sorts of functions. Okay, so here we've got a positive exponential. You'll notice that it's very flat over here on the left-hand side. It gets closer and closer to the y-axis as you go further along. And then on the other side of this y-axis, it pretty much takes off. It goes up very quickly. And notice that it goes to the point 0, 1. So a few basic things to remember there. Over here, very similar, but it's pretty much like a mirror image. You've got it really flat over on the right, and then over here is where it takes off. So that's the negative exponential. It's got the same y-intercept. Always a y-intercept of 1, so as you can see there. Okay, so the graphs, don't worry too much about having to graph these perfectly. These are pretty much like rough sketches, and I'm content with that. Okay, another thing I need you guys to be aware of is that here we've got two different functions, two different exponential functions. They're both positive versions, so they're both going to be going up to the right, as you can see down here. But one's a 4 and one's a 6, and that does make a little bit of a difference. And so some of the trickier sort of questions you'll see in HSC exams will need you to understand how this 4 and this 6 does change the graph. Okay, guys, so when you're graphing these, obviously, and you're going to be doing this in your textbook, some of the questions ask you to actually make these tables of values. So it's pretty much the same sort of process. Start with your x, put some decent, easy numbers up the top, but try to get some negatives and some positives. These ones are good. And then you got to figure out what your y is using the function. So here, my x changes to a negative 2. When x is negative 2, the y becomes 4 to the power of negative 2, which is going to be 1 over 16. So you can use your calculator for this. And then same sort of thing for -1. 4 to the power of 0 is always 1. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. And then you've got 4 to the power of 1 is 4, and then 4 to the power of 2 is 16. So these tables shouldn't be too bad. So a similar sort of thing happening over here with 6 to the power of x. Okay, so when you're graphing these, the easiest points to graph are these two, because 0 and 1 nice and simple. You can do 2 to 16, but typically our graph isn't going to go up to a 16. So usually these ones here and these ones here are the easiest to graph, as I've done down here, right here. I've graphed those 2 points. The other ones I'm not too worried about, because the other points are very small. So for example, like 1/16 and 1/4, you got very small ones here. Like you can see, they're just getting really close to the y-axis. And here 1/36 and 1/6, again, just very small points. So I didn't worry too much about graphing those. So I want you to be able to do the same sort of thing. You can graph them, but they're just going to be very close to the line. Okay, so you can see here, this is what their graphs look like. They've got this sort of shape going on. Just a few things to take note of. The values of y are always above 0. So remember guys, this is your y-axis. So all this part is where y is positive, and this is where your graph sits in this section. There's nothing down here. So the idea is that your y values are always above 0. So there's nothing, literally nothing below the x-axis. Also, notice your x values, so along here and here. Let's get rid of that. So along here and here, you can get, you can literally put any sort of x value that you want into this. So therefore, x can be positive, 0, or negative. But it's only the y's that have that limit of only being above 0. So just take that on board, see what you think. If you're a bit confused about what I mean there, I'm going to link a few more videos about this sort of thing in on the Year 12 page in OneNote. So they may help you out a little bit more. So good luck with the questions for exercise 8A. Try to give each one a go. Let me know in the group chat if you're having any problems. Happy to help out as much as I can. Thanks. See you guys.